And good evening on this Monday night. Welcome to the University of Dubuque Football Show. Head coach Ryan Myrie will join us here in just a moment as we get ready for the Spartans' first American Rivers Conference game of the season. And it is a home game coming up this Saturday here at Chalmers Field, where our show is coming from here this evening. And maybe you see some action in the background, the junior varsity for the University of Dubuque playing tonight against Wisconsin-Platteville. Here, just kicked that off a moment ago. And it's a beautiful night for football, just like it was Saturday night at Platteville. Beautiful weather. The result didn't turn out so great for the Spartans with a 38-7 loss to a very good Pioneer football team. So we're going to talk about that with Coach Myrie and then look ahead to the start of American Rivers Conference play here, like I said, that begins on Saturday. And, Coach, good to see you here again this evening. And we got some football action in the background. You're going to keep wanting to look back there, I know.
Yeah, I know. I can see it out of the corner of my eye. It's hard for me to turn back and actually watch the game. But it's nice to be able to get our guys back out on the field and compete in right away, after a tough weekend.
Yeah, and junior varsity schedule, that's something that hasn't been available here at the University of Dubuque. So talk about the junior varsity schedule that you've got this year.
Yeah, so we were only able to get 2 games scheduled because we were a little late to the party, and a lot of teams had things already set in place. So we were able to get Platteville set up. They're here this week, and in a couple weeks we have Clark coming over to work with us as well. So we got 2 opportunities this year. Hopefully we'll build it to where it's like a 4 to 6 game schedule each year to allow our underclassmen to develop and get some actual game action and help them run our system to prepare them for Saturdays.
Sure, it's beneficiary in a lot of different ways. I can see that, and so I think it's great. And like you said, you got one more game with Clark later on in the year in October, I think.
Yes, sir.
Heard that was.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So, let's talk about the game on Saturday night. First of all, the Wisconsin-Platteville Pioneers. I know they've got high hopes in the WIAC this year. They're just outside the top 25 according to the latest D3Football.com rankings. But they got the best of you, 38-7 there on Saturday night, and so a tough loss, but against a good Platteville team, and so you're able to glean some things out of that as you move forward. We'll just talk about the game in basic fashion. First of all, how it played out. First quarter action looks like Platteville got on the board first, put up a 10-0 score. Then you put together a pretty nice drive to get right back into that thing.
Yeah, and actually when that happened, I was like, all right, we got some little bit of rhythm here. We got helped out a little bit because they had some penalties to help us move the ball down the field, but we were also making some plays. And, I thought that was going to turn the tide a little bit for us. And, we just ended up kind of getting back stuck in the mud and unfortunately couldn't close the gap anymore as the game went on.
I know you had to deal with replacing some guys, some injury situation, and getting a look at some guys, including a freshman quarterback that went most of the way, Joey Romberg out of Mount Vernon. I know he had a lot of high accolades in high school, all-state kid for 2 seasons, and but it's different when you go behind center for the first time in college.
Yeah, and when you're going against a really great opponent that runs a lot of different stuff and looks on defense, that's a challenging thing. So not only do they have a great skill, but they're coached incredibly well, and they do a lot of different things. So when you're getting your first live action and all of a sudden you just got bodies all over the place moving around, that's tough and challenging. So, but I thought he did pretty well overall for getting his first taste of college football. He commanded things well. He didn't shy away from the competition. He never wavered, even when things were going tough, he just wanted to keep getting back on the field and compete. And that's what you want from your signal caller, is someone that's competitive and not going to back down even when things are going bad.
He led you down the field on that scoring drive, which was 11 plays and 75 yards. So a lot of good things happened on that drive. Talk about how you executed and got that first touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of pretty good plays in terms of some bigger plays, and then like I said, they had some penalties. We got them in some tough spots and some offside stuff, some free plays, but then also some holding calls or whatever, pass interference type stuff that helped us get the ball down the field. But we were getting some one-on-one situations. We took those shots, and even though we may not have got a completion, we also got some penalties out of it because we got some good receivers that are tough to contend with in a one-on-one scenario. And then we made a heck of a throw on the fade ball to get the touchdown. I'm not sure it could be thrown any better. And then the catch on top of it, the whole play was brilliant in terms of what our players did. And hopefully we can string some of those together more and more throughout games.
So Cameron Bryce on the other end of that touchdown reception, the 16-yard pass that put the Spartans within 3 points. But unfortunately, Platteville, as they did a couple of times on the night, hit some pretty big pass plays, hit a big one for a touchdown, and that opened up the gate a little bit more for them before halftime.
Yeah, and our defense, as we're evaluating, our defense is actually coming out really strong and playing really hard, and we're not helping them out a ton on offense. So, they have a lot of resiliency. Actually, I've been very pleased with how they've started games and how they're finishing games. But we're getting worn out in the middle of games because we're not staying on the field very long on offense, and we're going off the field and we're not scoring points. So that feel of success, if you go off the field quick but you score a touchdown, we're okay. Guys aren't getting down in the dumps or anything. But when you're going off the field quick and you're not getting any points off of it, and that wears on the defense after a while. So they started to get some chunk plays and explosive plays, and that's an area of focus for us this week. We got to eliminate those things, minimize them, and we've seen our defense, if they minimize that and make them earn it, we've been able to bow up and hold them to field goals or actually go 4 and outs. And that's been the case the first 2 weeks, actually.
Mm-hmm. I know one of the areas where you had the injury bug bite you a little bit is at the running back spot. And Platteville, a pretty good defensive team, stopping the run. And so that makes it tough as well when you can't get anything going on the ground.
Yeah, especially for a young quarterback that was playing a good chunk of that game, when it's completely relying on the pass game, or it feels like it is, that makes it a lot more challenging. And they were kind of daring us to run the football, and we really couldn't do that. So we got to be a little bit more creative going forward of how we're going to do those things with the run game. And we got to get that. It's got to start there. That's where football really starts. Is you got to have an effective run game, and then everything else gets built off of that. And we're just not there right now.
You went into the locker room down 24-7 at halftime. Were there some other opportunities that were just miss opportunities where this could have made it a little bit different first half?
Honestly, they played really well. Platteville did, and we didn't. And so I'm not sure there could have been much different from that other than us executing our assignments better. I feel like offensively we had a lot of self-inflicted wounds between penalties and then some missed opportunities. The first drive or the second drive of the game, we had an opportunity to hit a explosive play down the sideline, and we just overthrew it, just missed a shot. Like, there's little things like that through the game that if you make those plays, you don't know how the rest of the course of the game will go. And those are the things that we got to capitalize on. When you got a free throw, it's kind of like in basketball. You got a free throw, you got to make your free throws. And we didn't make enough free throws in that game, and we had some.
And they scored right away coming out in that third quarter, and so that deflated the balloon a little bit more and made it tough to get back from that point.
Yeah, that made it really tough. But our guys there was a lot of positive talk on the sideline, which was great to hear and great to see. Like, especially coming up to Joey on the sideline, I heard a lot of guys coming up to him like, "Hey, we still got you. We're gonna get a stop here. We believe in you." There wasn't a lot of like negativity or anything like that. So that was good to see and good to hear from our guys. Like, they were trying to stick together.
And again, the final score turns out to be Platteville winning it by the score of 38-7. But as you look at Platteville as a team, like we said, they're going to be a contender in that WIAC. I know they think they can make some noise, and I think they're going to end up surprising some teams, and maybe, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that league itself is arguably the best league in all of Division III, not just football, but all athletics. And they're definitely going to be a contender. I'll be shocked if they're not one of the top 3 teams in that league when it's all said and done.
They ended up with 503 yards offense, 206 yards for the Spartans, and it was tough to get them off field on third down. They were 10 for 17, so that sustained some drives for them as well.
Yes, sir, and that kind of goes into it again. From a defensive perspective, you have opportunities to get yourself off the field, but when you're on the field a ton, it gets a little harder to do that. And they were able to get themselves in the third and manageable or third and short scenarios. And those are a little bit easier to convert than the third and long ones. So we got to do a little bit better job. We talked about as a staff doing a better job on first downs to make second and third down a little bit harder and more challenging for the guys or for the opponent. And that's something that we're focused on again this week is getting ourselves better in those areas, and then that'll help us down in third down scenarios.
As I looked at the stat sheet, one area both coaches from both sides are going to be working on penalties. Both teams struggled with that a little bit.
Yeah, that was a low moment for us too. We had one where we had double personal fouls on a play. We had 30 yards of penalties. That was frustrating. That was the last drive of the game, and that's something that we're really focused on is our discipline, and we didn't really show great discipline in those moments. We had a lot of pre-snap penalties again, and then the post-snap penalties, and we got to be able to eliminate those. We did a little bit better in terms of like the turnover side of it, but we didn't do better in terms of the penalty yardage.
I was looking at some of the defensive stats, flipping sides of the ball. Channing, Williams, Parker, and Dubuque, those guys had big games for you. Channing, just about 9 tackles total. He had a tackle for loss, and Parker, he roams the field well at that linebacker spot.
Yeah, they've done a really good job. They're great leaders for our team. They fly around to the football. I feel like they're pretty relentless and resilient guys. Actually, Parker the whole game just kept saying, "I want to get back on the field." Like, he was loving it. He loves the game, and he loves competing for his teammates. And he's been a great leader, as well as Channing. Like, Channing stepped up a ton this year, even from the spring to now, leading the middle part of that defense and doing a lot of communication and stuff like that. Like, he's outstanding.
So, obviously, you don't like it to be a loss in game number 2, but coaches always say game 1 to game 2, they're looking for areas of improvement from week number 1. And what would you say are some of those areas that maybe you saw growth in your team, even though it turned out to be a loss to a good football team?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is the turnover part of it. We had three picks that we threw in the first game. This game we had 1. That was a unforced error, trying to throw it back across the field, across the grain. And but outside of that, we played pretty much, turnover free on the offensive side of the ball. So that was good to see. We had a lot of hits on our quarterback, though. Like, those are things that we want to see get cleaned up from week 2 to week 3, eliminating some of those shots. And then also just being a little bit more efficient. Like we weren't great on third down. Like I think we were 4 of 16 or something like that. That's obviously really bad. We were a little bit better week 1 than week 2 in that department. And we had some third and manageables. We just didn't execute very well. And so those are things that we do need to clean up. So I'd say the biggest thing that we've seen that was better from week 1 to week 2 is just taking care of the football a little bit better. But now we got to be moving the football.
We're with University of Dubuque head football coach Ryan Myeri here on this Monday night after the Spartans just finish up the non-conference portion of their schedule. The conference schedule lies the rest of the season in front of them, so a lot of hope as the American Rivers Conference schedule does begin. We'll return, talk with Coach Myeri a little bit more about that upcoming game against Simpson College right here at the Chalmers Field on Saturday afternoon. And then we've got another assistant coach going to join us this week in the assistant coach spotlight. Keenan Cooper, special teams coordinator, defensive backs coach. He is in the on-deck circle, and he's going to come in here right after Coach Myeri joins us in this next segment. But we'll talk a little bit more with Coach Myeri when we return. This is the University of Dubuque Football Show. We are back on the University of Dubuque Football Show with head coach Ryan Myeri. As we mentioned before we took a quick break there, the Spartans open up American Rivers Conference play on Saturday as they'll welcome the Simpson Storm right here to Chalmers Field for a 1 o'clock kickoff. And Coach, I know your guys are anxious to turn the page because, I mean, the non-conference has nothing to do with an American Rivers Conference title and getting to the NCAA playoffs. So that all begins coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, yes, sir. We're really excited and chomping at the bit. You know, we had early morning meetings this morning to kind of put Saturday to rest. And, you know, they get pretty much like a 50-hour rule, 48-hour rule from the previous game. Now, it was a little shorter because we played a night game, but, you know, once we get done with that meeting in the morning, about 7:30, they're moving on to the next opponent. So, you know, we had an afternoon practice and lift to kind of prepare for this game already and get our guys situated so they know the game plan and what we're expecting from Simpson. But, yeah, they're definitely excited to kind of start a new season, so to speak.
It's going to be a big day here, too, because it's senior day. You'll honor your seniors with the first game of conference play. So talk a little bit about that thinking. Some teams like to have their senior day at the end of the season. I was seeing more and more teams moving it up to early in the schedule.
Yeah, you know, this is actually my first time to have it earlier in the year. Typically, yeah, it's the last home game of the season. You know, the thought process behind this was, you know, if you move it up earlier, the weather's typically a little nicer this time of year, and maybe it's a little easier. You know, we have a lot of guys that are from out of state and travel pretty far. Maybe it's a little easier for family to make it.
A little
warmer. Weather's nicer. Yeah, the weather's nicer and warmer, and so less chance of inclement weather, you know, doing it at this time. And hopefully it's an enjoyable experience for them.
And I think this is actually going to be one of the bigger senior classes the University of Dubuque has had, you know, for a season to recognize.
Yeah, so, you know, fortunately we've done a really good job of retention. We have a lot of guys that have stuck around. And, yeah, it's been kind of cool because there's a lot of guys, like I haven't met their parents yet. And even walking off the field today, Channing, you know, who we were just talking about, he's like, yeah, you know, remember I talked to you about this summer. My family's going to be here, and, like, he can't wait to introduce me to everybody. And, you know, I'm really excited about that opportunity to, you know, share that with our guys. And that's an exciting moment. You know, you get to go through your time here and then to share it with your brothers that you've spent a lot of time. And also with your family to be involved with that is pretty
Oh,
cool.
oh yeah. I mean, the family is such a major factor in a college player, high school player's life. I mean, you played, and your mom and dad were probably on, every game,
Yeah.
taking to every practice, that kind of thing. So
Yes, sir.
it's great to recognize those seniors and get their families back here. We'll talk about your opponent, the Simpson College Storm, here in just a moment. But in general terms, let's talk about the American Rivers Conference as the league gets ready for conference play on Saturday. You've gotten a chance to see what's happened around the league for the first two non-conference games, and I think there's only two teams that have perfect records, 2-0. It's Central and Co.
Central and Co. Yeah. I mean, all the teams are playing pretty well. I know we'll talk about Simpson here soon, but I think it's just us, Luther, and BV that haven't won yet, and hopefully we can change that this week. But yeah, we're doing pretty well outside of the conference. There's been some tough opponents that we've played. Wartburg dropped one this past weekend, but they're playing St. John's, who's probably a top 5, top 10 team for sure, and that was a battle. And I give them credit for willing to take on that. In the regular or the preseason, so to speak, not conference part of it, and because not a lot of teams are signing up to do those things, and probably no one wants to play either one of those teams at this point of the year if they don't have to. So that's probably why they're playing each other.
Of course, here at the University of Dubuque, I remember the year the Spartans made the playoffs, had to go to, of course, there in College Town for game one of the season.
Yeah, and then first round of the playoffs.
So they got to experience that game day atmosphere, which is really, really something.
It's impressive, actually, up there. I got to watch a couple clips of that game, and just there's people all around.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's impressive.
I mean, even their radio station that covers those games, Jim Cloran and I got there, and we were listening to a pregame show, we got there, and when we got into town, it was going on then. So I don't know how they did like a 4-hour pregame show, but it was.
That's impressive.
It was
That's
going
awesome.
on. Yeah, so they love their football, so no doubt about it. So like you said, that was a tough place to go. And speaking of Wartburg, they're going to be at Central on Saturday, Buena Vista at Loris to start the conference schedule, and then Co at Luther and Nebraska Wesleyan with the bye. And the Spartans take on the Simpson College Storm. The Storm won their game last weekend against Crown, 45-7. Lost to Augustana to begin the season, 30-13. And I know you're starting to prepare for them now. And what's your first take as you looked at Simpson coming back this year?
They're much improved from last year. That's the first thing that you notice. Especially my main focus is the defense side of the ball, working with the offense, and they're head and shoulders better than last year. This year they're healthier. Last year at the point of the season that we played, they were a little dinged up, and they are also, with the new staff, their guys are in better position this year, fly around to the football. They got some new faces on offense, especially like in the wide receiver room. They lost a really good wide receiver, but they had a freshman that had a breakout game against Crown on Saturday. And so they got two really solid receivers that have good length on the offensive side of the ball. And, that Augie game the first week, that was a tough opponent. Augie's really good. They've built that thing up pretty well now. They'll be contending. They'll probably be top 3 team at least in the CCIW. They'll be in the top half of that league for sure. So that's a tough first opponent. And then they got a great explosive win against Crown. And the first half they started out a little slow, but the second half they just were like, no, we're gonna take this thing, and they took it to them and had a bunch of explosive pass plays. They had a 97-yard touchdown pass, another long one, 50-something yards, and then they had 2 pretty explosive run plays from their backup running back, who he can run. So.
I think the conference preseason poll picked them to be 6th in the league. Their second year under a new head coach, relatively, with Reed Hoskins, and 8 starters back on offense, 9 on defense. So, like you said, they got some guys back with some new faces. And defensively, seems like they played pretty well against Crown, holding them to just 207 yards.
Yeah, they pretty much locked them down the whole game, outside of pretty much like one series. And Crown moved the ball a little bit here and there in spurts, but nothing really efficient. So, we're gonna have to be at the top of our game, to be in this game.
Spartans have won 3 straight in this series, but it's pretty even when you go back all the way since it started, 34-36 in favor of Simpson. 45-21 win for UD last season against Simpson. I know one of the starters they got back too, as I think of it, maybe a 2 or 3 year starter at quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's been maybe starting since he was a freshman a little bit. So yeah, it feels like he's been in the league for a long time, and he's put up a lot of really good numbers, and so we got to be mindful of that. And now he's got pretty good weapons and a pretty strong O-line back. So yeah, it's gonna be a challenge.
So as you think about Simpson and just your first 2 games, so what are the keys you're hoping to see on Saturday if you're going to get that first W to open up conference play?
Well, again, it goes back to protecting the football, trying to, on offense, get explosive plays, minimize explosive on the defensive side, and then the penalties. I want to see that get cleaned up and be a disciplined football team. We keep preaching that. Our guys talk about it. But now we got to start showing it. It's one thing to sit around here and talk about being disciplined, but if there's no action behind it and we're not displaying that, then we're not disciplined. So I want to see that, and for us to try to put together a complete game.
I know it's just Monday, but health-wise, do you feel like you're going to be better this week than you were week 2, or still some lingering
I'm not sure we'll have Ben or Hunter back. They're maybe 50%. Like, all I know is that they're questionable at this point, so I'm not quite sure. We didn't really have anything major in this previous game, which is good. Hopefully we don't have anything throughout practice again. But yeah, hopefully we'll get those guys back, but there's no saying right now.
1 o'clock kickoff here on Saturday, and you can view it on udspartans.com. Jim Cloran and I will have the call for that, so we're looking forward to that to open up American Rivers Conference play. Coach, before we let you go, your assistant in the spotlight tonight is going to be coming over here, Keenan Cooper. Tell us a little bit about Coach Cooper.
Yeah, Coach Coop and I we kind of go way back. He was a senior when my first year as a graduate assistant at the University of Minnesota. He was a great leader at the time. Actually, like, my first time really remembering that year was he lost his roommate, and that was pretty impressionable on me because I was just starting out. It was like I started here, and I had never experienced anything like that, and he found his roommate unconscious, and he had passed away.
Oh, man.
And I just remember, like, going through that whole thing, and that just really stuck with me. And he was a great leader throughout the season. And over time, as I knew that he got into coaching, we ended up coaching against each other a little bit because he was the defense coordinator at Luther. As soon as I got here, he was one of the first people I talked to about taking an opportunity with us. So, to get him to come down here, him and his wife, Brigida and their 2 kids, being in Amari, like, to get them down here with us was pretty special. And I'm just excited to be back working with him. He's a great leader for our guys. He's very demanding, but he's not demeaning. Like, he coaches the guys up really well and builds good relationships. And I feel like it's exactly what our guys need right now.
Yeah, sounds like the type of leader you're looking for to have as a head coach for these young men. So we'll look forward to meeting Keenan here for a few minutes. Thanks for joining us, Coach Myeri, and we'll see you on Saturday. Good luck to the Spartans.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll come back. We'll have our assistant coach spotlight on the UD football show. Coach Cooper will join us next. And we're back on the University of Dubuque football show, and we're to our assistant coach spotlight segment. After Coach Myeri left, Coach Cooper has joined us right now. Keenan Cooper, the a new head coach or the new defensive backs coach, special teams coordinator at the University of Dubuque. Coach Cooper, it's great to have you and a chance to meet you here this evening.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. My family and I, we've started to settle in, and it's been a phenomenal opportunity to coach the young men of UD Spartan football program, and starting to get into the thick of things. And so it's been fun watching guys grow and get to know the young men and teach them what I know about the game of football, and also try to mentor them as best I can off the field.
Obviously, you had a great relationship with Coach Myeri, and that's one of the reasons that brought you to the University of Dubuque here. But what else brought you in here to be a coach of the Spartans? You knew about the program a little bit at Luther College when you were the D coordinator there. So just kind of talk about how it's been, how the decision-making process to bring you here to the University of Dubuque.
It's been a crazy journey actually, Mountain, to get here. I've known Rob Puberty very well. Actually, had the first time I had an opportunity to work with him was actually at Augsburg University. And so I was the defensive backs coach and special teams coordinator there as well, while he was the defensive coordinator. And in the previous years he's been here, we've stayed connected, and I actually had an opportunity to join the UD program 2 times prior. So the very first time, there was things that I wanted to accomplish as a coach that meant a lot to me. I was going into my fourth year at Augsburg University. I had a group of seniors that I wanted to see them through to their first year, through graduation. So that was really important for me as a coach. I built some really strong relationships, and just with my focus on being a mentor and seeing those young men graduate was really important to me. So that's why the first time I chose not to to come to the program. My wife was really ready to come. She enjoyed her time here. We came here and met the staff, and then the next time after that, it was a great opportunity for me. We had just moved to the Cora, and it wasn't a good time for my family, right? And so, just with the deciding to go the route to kind of stay put a little bit, and so when Coach Myeri got the opportunity, it was perfect timing on our front. So. But I've known about the program since Coach Rob Puberty got here, and so I've followed a little bit, and obviously having the opportunity to play at UD back in 2022 was a great opportunity as well.
Why don't you talk a little bit about your group of defensive backs this year and the progress that they've made?
It kind of all starts with Dalton Wood, who's been a phenomenal leader in the program for quite some time now. With just his consistency in the back end, his physical nature, his somewhat fairly mellow. He doesn't say a ton. He let his play do a lot of talking. He's an anchor on the back end, and then Keywan James also as well at the other safety spot has done well. I've seen him grow a lot in the last couple of months since going back to spring ball since I've been here. He's just a young man that brings a lot of positive energy. He knows what we're doing. He knows why we're trying to do it. He's a young man that's always in the office trying to learn and trying to figure out what it is, what parts of his game can he improve and work well at. And then A.J. Rashid, who has been very consistent on the edges at the cornerback spot, who was tested here a little bit by Platteville, and he answered the call. So I praise him a lot there. And then E.T. Edward Williams is a young man that is new to the program, and he made a statement early in fall camp with just the things that he can do. And so it's been great to watch those young men grow, and I give those young men a lot of credit with in the time that I challenged them is they take it in stride, and I think at the end of the day they're appreciative of just some of the hard coaching that they get, because I've seen them grow quite a bit. And I like to joke with the guys too, so that they know just as much as I like to be demanding, I also like to balance it out with a little fun and jokes and meetings and stuff to keep things lighthearted as well.
Coach Cooper, you also have the responsibility of being the special teams coordinator, and you want to talk about that a little bit. Special teams are sometimes where guys earn more playing time, and so they're hungry to show you what they've got.
Yeah, special teams is a unique world in itself. It's a great opportunity for me with just the reasons why I coach. It gives me an opportunity to work with the young men on offense as well, right? Aside from being on the defensive side, working with the defensive backs, being in defensive unit meetings. I enjoy the opportunity because, again, I get to connect with the offensive guys as well. And so, just to expand my reach across the entire program is a great opportunity. And it's a unique challenge in a way because, there's a lot of moving parts to it, right? With injuries and guys earn more playing time and guys always want more playing time. So it's a great opportunity for myself to evaluate kind of from different perspectives, not only from the offensive side, with being on the defensive side, but evaluating the offensive guys in terms of who we're practicing against, but then also understanding the young men and their skill sets on the defensive side of the ball, where the young man does a great job pursuing the ball, has a physical nature about him, they can block and run and those kind of things. So it's been incredible because I've had quite a few young men that will come by the office and say, Coach, how can I get on the field? And as a coach, that's the least you can ask for, right?
Sure.
So just guys to have the desire to want to help their program and want an opportunity. I know that the young men that have gotten opportunity, that are doing a great job of maximizing those opportunities, doing the best they can.
Coach Cooper, it's been a pleasure having you on the University of Dubuque football show here this evening. Best of luck to the Spartan coaches and the team this Saturday as you take on Simpson College. Again, thanks for coming up and talking to us, and welcome to your family here to Dubuque and the University of Dubuque community.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, you bet. Keenan Cooper, special teams coordinator, defensive backs coach, joining us here tonight on the UD Football Show. Don't forget to come out and support the Spartans if you can here in the stands, but if you can't, it'll be broadcast on udspartans.com. 1 o'clock kickoff as UD takes on Simpson College this Saturday. I'm Tim Larry for the University of Dubuque Football Show. Have a great rest of your Monday night.